Were you silent or were you silenced?
Our initial connection.
Alright, so we've just had the Meghan Markle interview with Oprah Winfrey and Prince Harry. And all the questions that we've been asked in the previous videos, you know, the questions that I get as well. Can you really trust Meghan? What can you differentiate between the truths and the lies? What we're going to find out in this video here.
Our initial connection.
Is that actually there is a number of things that Meghan does that still doesn't add up, alright? It still doesn't add up. And what I'm going to show to you is based on the non-verbal communication that I've picked up over the 2-hour interview, and there is some really explosive stuff, okay? There is some really interesting, explosive and educational stuff as well. That will just give you more of an insight in what may be true and also what may be lies. But I'll also be sharing in a fair and balanced way, and we've got to get this across, alright? I get Meghan is Marmite. Do you like her, do you not? Do you love her, do you hate her, okay? But we must be fair and balanced, because if you are fair and balanced, point out the positives and the negatives, then it's very hard to argue with the negatives when you're running down the middle. You're not, you're not constructing, or your heuristic biases isn't allowing you to come with a conviction. And if so, let this data allow you to challenge your own beliefs and thought processes. But let's look at the truth, our truth. You know, Oprah Winfrey said to Meghan, this is the chance for your truth. Let's have some non-verbal communication help us to actually discover the truth. Like I said, there is some fantastic non-verbal, evocative body language examples that I will be giving during this video. And I feel like I can be fair and balanced because I've done a number of videos now on Meghan Markle. A number of hours I've studied to notice her emotional baseline. Alright, an emotional baseline, you have one, I have one. Anybody has one. It's what we do on average most of the time. If somebody does more of something or they stop doing something, boom, that's where we are going to focus upon. Alright, and one of the previous videos that I had was when Meghan looked really uncomfortable when a news reporter pointed out, and she wasn't being vindictive, she wasn't being nasty, that she wasn't the only powerful woman in the community. Meghan did not respond to that very well, alright? The eyes went across, you could see that negative type uncomfortable feeling, she had that globber sensation in her throat. So I have done a number of hours on Meghan, which allows me to, I feel, be even more fair and balanced to deliver more truthful information on this subject. So we'll get straight into it. Now, the footage is not great, but it's good enough, especially with my commentary. Straight off the bat, we've got what we call an eye block. Oprah's talking about the wedding, and what we see is Meghan with a flutter of eye blocks. Now, a flutter of eye blocks, all right, not an elongated eye block, a flutter, okay, just one shot, is the brain trying to cut off the feeling from the image that is coming from the hippocampus. So straight away she's talking about the wedding, and already we've got negative eye blocks. On her wedding day, she's got that negative association, but take a look, here it is.
I woke up and started listening to that song, Going to the Chapel, and just tried to make it fun and light and remind ourselves that this was our day, but I think we were both really aware.
Also, we see some more eye blocks here. Now, this is interesting. This is the one of the real strong bits where I question Meghan's integrity, all right? Where I question Meghan's integrity is when Oprah offers to her that everybody who knows that they're marrying into the royal family knows what they're getting into. There's an eye block here. All right, and it's, well, what are you trying to cut off? All right, what are you trying to cut off? And actually, what she may be trying to cut off, this is the bit that, you know, a really powerful statement that she made that just doesn't make sense to me, is that she says that she didn't do any research into the royal family. Right, this is not like the Smiths over the road or your childhood sweetheart that you're marrying. Like, this is the royal family. One of, if not the most famous families on the planet. All the attention, you know, that it garners. And you're honestly trying to tell us that you didn't look into it, you didn't research it. She even says in the interview that she didn't Google it. Like, that just doesn't make sense. All right, that just doesn't make sense. But again, what we see is a number of eye blocks. Now, the eye blocks could be that she hasn't done it and she wished she had, or there's a non-truth being said here. Okay, there's a non-truth that's making her uncomfortable and she's trying to shut off in that particular moment. But take a look here.
Everybody who gets married knows that you are really marrying the family too. But you weren't just.
And like I say, when she mentions about the royal family and she didn't research into it, there's an elongated eye block here. Now, an elongated eye block is a powerful emotional blackout. That's what we're trying to achieve. The little flutters, they're there. The longer ones, all right? And watch for it when you do it. Watch for it when other people do it. When they really shut their eyes, they are really trying to block out a powerful emotion here. But she's talking about, I didn't research the royal family. To me, it just beggars belief. This is where you see the eye block.
Right.
But you were certainly aware of the royals.
Of course.
And if you're going to marry a royal, then you would do research about what that would mean.
Well, I didn't do any research about what that would mean.
You didn't do any research?
No.
Any research?
No.
Any research?
No.
Also, something that I think is just really off is when she's talking about when her and Prince Harry fell for each other, or when they met, or when they first connected. All right, and what we get here is the Pinocchio moment straight away at the start of the interview. It is the Pinocchio moment. Remember, people touch their nose when there could be an untruth, when they are definitely uncomfortable. Remember, body language, comfort versus discomfort. But what we see here is when she's talking about when her and Prince Harry met and they've got the same interest in the causes, etc. At that very moment, there's the T-junction. What's she talking about? What does her body do? Boom, she touches her nose. Why is there any level of discomfort when you're talking about when you and Harry first met? There should be joy, the eyes wide open, the spark, the chemistry there. Was there an ulterior motive why Meghan Markle met Prince Harry?
Right. What does it mean to be a working royal? What do you do? What does that mean? I knew that he and I were very aligned on all of our cause-driven work. That was part of our initial connection.
Again, body language is such an important skill, and a lot of you are really interested in it. I've been getting asked, what's my background? Can I offer training, hints and tips, free resources? So that's what I've done. I've created a website, believeandbruce.com, so if you want free resources, free hints and tips about anything to do with body language, psychology, head and the heart, becoming a better version of you, here's the details here. believeandbruce.com, a free resource for you to access. I've been delivering body language awareness courses and offering expert opinion to national newspapers for many years, helping people all over the world to think, feel and act better and to be more in control of their thoughts and feelings. Body language awareness enhances mental health, leadership skills and safety performance. You can book me via the website for courses, events, corporate team meetings, but also sign up to receive free hints and tips about all things body language and psychology, optimising the potential of yours and others' heads and hearts. Now this one is really interesting. Meghan, I don't know whether she's trying to position herself hierarchically or how she sees herself, but she's talking about meeting the Queen as if it's an average thing. It didn't mean anything to her. But what we do get is what we call the lean, all right? And you'll see her body, watch for it. Her body actually leans at that time when she's talking about meeting the Queen. So although verbally she's trying to give across like, yeah, it was fine, I was just meeting the Queen. What we've got is when she hears herself saying that, this is what it is, we hear her in her voice, that we actually verbalise it. We then get that recursive loop. Our thalamus picks up our voice. That then goes to the hippocampus, the amygdala. All right, sparks that adrenaline. That's why we get that move there. There's been a little dump of adrenaline. That's why she leans. Remember, what does she do at that particular moment? 2 seconds before, 2 seconds after. That's why we can say conclusively it's a non-verbal communication display. It's an offering, all right? But she's trying to make on like meeting the Queen was nothing. Boom, but we get the adrenaline that indicates it actually was. But why is she lying about this? I've got no idea. Now, what we've also got here, we can confirm that Meghan, when she feels uncomfortable, she touches her nose. Right, I said it before, we can actually lock this in now. When she's talking about when she was going to marry Prince Harry, she offers that 3 days before, her, Prince Harry and the Archbishop of Canterbury actually met to hold their own personal service, instead of, the one that they were doing in front of all of the world. But you'll see when she's talking about it, she touches that nose. All right, was she uncomfortable with the wedding? Was she uncomfortable with the fact that she had to have her own personal service that nobody else knew about? I've got no idea, but what we can do is we can lock in the fact that when she's uncomfortable, she touches her nose. Take a look.
And just getting back down to basics. I was thinking about it, even our wedding.
Now what we can see here is that when Oprah talks about, the royal wedding was fantastic, the whole world was looking, you'll see multiple eye blocks there. All right, not eyes wide open and a big smile, multiple eye blocks, so that we know on this occasion, although we may have the perception of a fantastic day and everybody's happy, etc., Meghan, for whatever reason, and we don't know because Oprah didn't ask the question, that's why I should get Believe and Bruce involved in it. If I notice somebody, you would not like to play a mate of poker, all right? But if I notice somebody doing this, I'm going to stop, I'm going to pause, I'm going to drill into that moment. What was going on in their thought pattern there? So when you're talking about something that should be happy, what was really going on? All right, now this actually backs up some of the stuff that Meghan says further down the line, and I know that might not be popular with some people, but we must be fair and balanced. As in, Meghan is definitely feeling uncomfortable when she's talking about the wedding. That backs up some of the stuff she says later on in the video. You know, on your wedding day, yes, people have got nerves, but the eye blocks and the way Oprah has suggested, has offered the question, it's in a non-threatening way. All right, but what we see here is a definite negative response to Meghan thinking about her own wedding day.
You know, the wedding was the most perfect picture, you know, anybody has ever seen. But through that picture,
and it's interesting with Meghan, she ranges from cold, calculated, warm, authentic, fluid. And, you know, she's quite sporadic during this interview, depending, I believe, on how comfortable she is with the question, or almost what she's trying to say to the question. So rather than an answer, sometimes it just sounds like a bit of a scripted response. And on other times, I love it when she's open, she's fluid, and she really is authentic in herself. There's a question that's asked, and we've got a mixed bag of response here. And I'm happy to admit, I can't draw a conclusive conclusion on this particular question. So Oprah asks Meghan, did you make Kate cry? And what we have is there is an emotional response there. All right, there is an emotional response where you can see she's thinking about it. All right, you can see she's thinking about it. It has impacted her. But then on the flip side, what we get is we get this elongated stare. Now, you will recognise this in you. You'll recognise it if you've got kids or partners, that sometimes we can overcompensate our lie by doing that elongated stare. You know, did you do that? She just looks directly at her. Again, that's above the emotional baseline. You watch the interview, you watch when Meghan talks. She blinks, she looks, she's fluid. But on this particular, for some reason, she looks straight at Oprah and doesn't even blink. There's an elongation there. Why is that above her emotional baseline? I've got no idea. But then you also see she does what we call the Duchenne Smile with her mouth. What's lacking here, and you often find this, and again, you often find this, doesn't mean that Meghan does do it, but you often find it, is when you've got no idea what's going on or you're trying to prove your innocence, you'll raise your shoulders as well. The Tortoise Effect that we call it. So the fact that there's an elongated smile plus the Duchenne Smile, but a lack of that Tortoise Effect, just makes me think, like, are you telling the truth? I would just love to ask some more questions at that particular time. Also, it's interesting here, she used the word institution. Right? She uses the word institution, and there's an example that's going to come further in the video where I believe shows that when Meghan is vulnerable, when she's been authentic, when she's been true, open, when she's just flown given an answer, she'll use the word the institution, all right, to describe the royal family or the royal family and the people associated around it. When she's trying to prove a point, when she's trying to maybe manipulate our feelings, where she's trying to get, or maybe get some revenge, if you will, she uses the word the firm, all right? And she uses the word the institution a number of times throughout this video, throughout the interview. But then on specific times where she's trying to make a point, she'll flip between labels, as we call them. All right, the institution, when she's been vulnerable and open, when she's trying to make a point, she'll call it the firm.
You knew all along, and people around you knew that that wasn't true.
Everyone in the institution knew it wasn't
true.
So
why didn't true?
Everyone in the institution knew it wasn't
true.
true.
So why didn't true?
Everyone in the institution knew it wasn't true.
So why didn't...
Now, where I do believe her, the question that Oprah asked that was included in the trailer is, were you silent or were you silenced? And Oprah adds a bit dramatic effect with the use of the hand. I do believe that Meghan was silenced here because what you see is an elongated eye block first. Okay, an elongated eye block. Remember, context is key here. Context is key. She's asked about, were you silenced or were you silenced? All right, the elongated eye block. And then there's a flutter. All right, so the elongated eye block is the emotional recognition of that negativity. Yes, I was silenced. But then what we've also got, and again, biology doesn't lie, you can't argue with it, all right? You cannot argue with it, is you've got that flutter of eye blocks. So the feeling comes first, and then the hippocampus recall about those times when she has been silenced. Take a look.
Were you silent or were you silenced?
The latter.
So how does it...
So that actually backs up what you were saying. Now, this is really interesting. She gets evocative, she gets open, you can see some energy in her when she's talking about why the royal family, not necessarily the members of the royal family, but the people who run the institution, all right, the other members of the organisation. It's a business at the end of the day. I think this is where she indicates Prince Andrew. I can't think of any royal member currently who the royal family and the people around them would have to lie for. But she's frustrated because she said, you're making up lies, you're standing up and giving lies and covering up for other people, yet you wouldn't even tell the truth about us. I think in that sentence there, that's when she indicates Prince Andrew. That's what I generally believe.
That I came to understand that not only was I not being protected, but that they were willing to lie to protect other members of the family, but they weren't willing to tell the truth to protect me and my husband.
Now this bit as well, when she's talking about Archie, where he was potentially, where it did happen, where the security was taken away, where they talk about his racial heritage. Yeah, depending on how, they were having a discussion on how dark the colour of Archie's skin would be. And Meghan goes on to explain there was some type of constitution or some type of law where that they would always be offered protection, the sons and the grandsons of the monarch, etc., etc. Now this for me is a real eye-opener into maybe the archaic policies or the nature in which this institution moves. Remember, I'm not just indicating the royal family here, I'm indicating everybody who is associated with the running of that business. Now for me, think what you will of Meghan. Right or wrong, okay, we can all have biases. We can all create an opinion, all right? It's not right, it's not great, but it's human. But to specifically identify a baby and then for that baby to be subjected to prejudice, etc., just because the colour of its skin, that holds no sway with anybody, and it shouldn't, all right, in 2021. That is just unacceptable on any level at all. That's my opinion, and I'm happy to put this out there. And I do believe that emotional context there, so I'm not sure if it's true, but Meghan definitely believes that is true. And you can see the emotion there. So just, for what it's worth for me, if that is occurring, then that's something that needs to be rectified absolutely immediately.
But the idea of our son not being safe, and also the idea of the first member of color in this family not being titled in the same way that other grandchildren would be. The other piece of that conversation is...
Harry actually backs this up later on when Harry makes an appearance by not wanting to discuss that conversation that occurred. So if something hadn't occurred, or it was something that simple that he's talked about his dad's relationship breaking down, he's talked about the space that he has with Prince William, but this particular point he will not discuss. And when he discusses it with Oprah, when he says he won't discuss it with Oprah, the preceding information before and after actually back up what Meghan is saying. So for me, that's something that needs rectified immediately. Now what we've got here is when Meghan talks about suicidal thoughts. When she's talking about suicidal thoughts, and again, this is true, there is authenticity there. And you've got to get past your biases about, oh, she's an actress, she can turn it on. When someone's making a movie, when they're making a program, there's editing. All right, there's editing that occurs. They prepare themselves emotionally. They know that the scene's coming. That helps them to get into that mind frame, to produce the tears. Meghan's talking and then she just feels it, that hippocampus, that globus sensation comes. You can see the emotional change in her. She doesn't have time to prepare for it. She's talking normally, then boom, it's just that instant memory, that emotional connection. It shows herself in a really authentic form.
But I can give you an honest answer. In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title. And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What?
Again, this is the how can I say it, the vulnerable part of it. This is where she uses the word institution. I asked the institution for help. She's open. She's honest. She's saying this is what occurred. She's not trying to prove a point here by using the word the firm. She's flowing. She's fluid. You know, she is just as you and I would be having a conversation. But it's interesting she uses the word institution when she's open, vulnerable and flowing.
Look, I was really ashamed to say it at the time, and ashamed to have to admit it to Harry especially, because I know how much loss he's suffered.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that if I didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore.
And then when she talks about what you see about Prince Harry, when they were going to an event, you know, Prince Harry said, "Do you want to come?" She's like, "I have to come. I can't be left alone." And again, there is a number of, I'm just going to play the little clip here. There's a number of indicators that show you on this occasion, again, just on this occasion here, I believe her. She is being honest. I think those were, she was having those suicidal thoughts. She was going through the mill. She was at rock bottom. And I think we've got to acknowledge that and give her space for that in order to be fair and balanced.
Methodical, and this is not who I am. But we had to go to this event, and I remember him saying, "I don't think you can go." And I said, "I can't be left alone."
Because you were afraid of what you might do to yourself?
And when Prince Harry was asked about, you know, why did you leave? And he's talking about, you know, I didn't want history to repeat itself. You'll see the look on his face. You'll see that relaxation in his body. You'll see the open palm gestures as he's discussing it. Like, there is genuine reason there that actually Prince Harry did, without a shadow of a doubt. Because that will be so, and again, you can understand this. Anybody could. If you can't understand this, then I would question your logical or reasoning skills. You know, the empathy that you hold is that he lost his mum when he was young. So young. And the whole world saw that play out. Him and William walking behind, two young boys behind that hearse. Two young boys behind that hearse. And he doesn't want to see that again. That will be such, you know, he's grew up with that feeling. That will not happen to me. That will not happen to my wife. That will not happen to my kids. So there is genuine authenticity here when Harry's talking about why he left, what he wanted to change, what he didn't want to occur.
My biggest concern was history repeating itself. And I've said that before, you know, on numerous occasions, very publicly. And what I was seeing was history repeating itself, but more perhaps, or definitely far more dangerous, because then you add race in and you add social media in. And when I'm talking about history repeating itself, I'm talking about my mother. When you can see something happening in the same kind of way, anybody would ask for help.
Also believes that there was a lot of racist connotations, or that angle of, you know, racism was very prevalent. It was strong. You can see when she's talking, she looks for Harry for that little bit of support. But again, there's open hand gestures here. This indicates that whether it's right or wrong, this is what she feels. She truly believes this.
They were so attacking and inciting so much racism, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed the risk level, because it wasn't just catty gossip. It was bringing out a part of people that was racist and how it was charged.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really like is when Oprah says to her very directly, yeah, that you are the pure orchestrator of Megxit. Yeah, it's all your fault. You're the one who's been creating the wand and pulling the strings and stuff. But you can see by her response and the way, again, that she looks at Harry, is that I think she says, "Oh, it's amazing what you can attach the word Meg to, yeah, Megxit." But again, there is that level of authenticity there. She opens it and then she gives her reasoning behind it.
You, Meghan, are the one who manipulated, calculated, and are responsible for this Megxit.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing how they can use Meg for everything.
Yes, there are even stories that you knew all along that this was going to happen. You went through the whole process, and it was all intentional to build your brand.
Can you imagine how little sense that makes? I left my career, my life, I left everything because I love him.
Now, it's interesting when they say, "No, Prince Harry, did your family really cut you off?" Did your family really cut you off? Because at the moment, all the focus has been on Meghan. She's the bad person, she's the devil, she's the negative one, all right? But then we've got Prince Harry authentically acknowledging with the non-verbal communication that backs it up. That says, yes, his family did cut him off. He actually gives the date as well. Here you go. The reason why I believe that to be wholly true and accurate is you'll see the self-soothe that Harry does on his thigh. A self-soothe is when you're calming yourself, when you're trying to give yourself some type of, an individual cuddle. So when he's talking about his family cutting him off, obviously it's a negative emotion, all right? It's a negative emotion. And it's true because you see him, remember the T-junction, at that particular moment, he soothes his thigh. He doesn't like being cut off by his family. He's given himself a little cuddle. And then one of the last things we see here is when he's talking about his own relationship with Prince Charles. You can see he is deep in thought. You can see there is emotional memories being at least discussed, narrated internally within his head about what's gone on there, what he wished he could have changed, how he wished his father had done things differently. But again, this is authentic, it's truthful, it's honest, it's fluid. All the non-verbals are there for you to see.
Your relationship with your father? Is he taking your calls now?
Yeah. He is. There's a lot to work through there. I feel really let down.
And I think that's what we've got to acknowledge here. The fact that not only has Meghan given a display of some, and I'm going to be very accurate here, some of her beliefs that I can say are true. The fact that she did believe that racism was a problem. The fact that she couldn't get help when she was at bottom. Or the fact that she, partly around the Kate, did you make Kate cry or not? I think there was some ownership of her part, but also saying, actually, it wasn't just me in this particular situation. In fact, it was flipped, but I was made to be the one on the receiving end of it. Add that you've got Prince Harry. You've got to bring Prince Harry into the equation here, all right? You've got to bring Prince Harry into the equation. There is nothing that Harry does that would indicate a lie on his part. He's answering the questions honestly, purposefully, truthfully. You can see the emotion, you can see the self-soothing going on when he's given those honest answers. But also for me, I just wish at the start Meghan hadn't said that she, didn't know much about the royal family. She didn't Google them. They weren't really on her radar. Like, that stuff there, she sort of touched her nose about the first time she met Prince Harry, when it should have been a joyful time. We've got that negative Pinocchio moment, that something sly is going on underneath the surface. And I think that's the thing with Meghan, all right? Yes, 100%, to be fair and balanced, we've got to acknowledge there's a lot of truth that was said there today, or at least she believes, this is the point, she believes what she was saying. But there's also some stuff, especially at the start of the interview, where it just doesn't add up. Some of the stuff she's saying just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. That's not to say it's true or it's not. It just doesn't make sense. But because it doesn't make sense, that's why you've got that Marmite effect. That's why we've got that do we or don't we? Do we like her? Do we not? Do we trust her? Do we not? So hopefully this gives you a little insight into Meghan, Harry and the Oprah interview. Certainly opened my eyes. A more detailed look, definitely over 2 hours, into how Meghan conducts herself, the thoughts, the belief patterns that she has. Hopefully some of the non-verbal communication I've given you can help you in your own life. You can see it in other people. Also help you have more collaborative conversations as well. So remember, please like, comment, subscribe below. Please, again, one of the things that I'm passionate about, and I always read them. There's a lot of comments, so I can't always get back to them, but let me know what you're thinking. Especially, has this interview changed your perception of Meghan? Has it allowed you to maybe shift your biases of the limited data that you've seen? Maybe challenge some of the narratives that you've been bringing? Or has it even fundamentally, it's solidified as giving more concrete for, no, I believe Meghan to be this person? It'd be fantastic to hear your views below. Remember, lots of free resources, believeinbruce.com, anything to do with body language, psychology, head and heart, thoughts and feelings, head across there. I'll put a link in the description below. You can also catch me at Instagram, believeinbruce360, where if you've got any more ideas for videos that you would like to see, that's where you can catch me there. But more important than any of this, believe in Bruce. Please remember to be kind to yourselves and each other.